When people hear about God's love for His creation and His grace, it is a common desire for people to want to believe that all people will be treated by God in the same way, namely with mercy. This is often called Universalism. Chris and Sarah address this issue and what is behind such views.
I'm going to help you see what your language does. When you do an if-then, you're doing what we call a conditional clause, right? Conditional clauses are law. And the reason you're going to the conditional clause is because you'd like to figure out what's the rule behind this. This is really what's happening. Because if we can make it into a rule, we can predict it. And then if we can predict it, we can try to control it. And if we can control it, then... So this is what happens when because actually the unpredictable or uncontrolledness is what makes us really uncomfortable. Because it's at God's doing and not ours. And that's what really makes you most nervous about this message, is when God being unfair, He's choosing who He wills, which is what He says. I will choose whom I choose. Then you have to go, okay, God, do it. Which, believe it or not, is faith. Whereas, well, let me figure out the pattern here, God. Let me figure out the way you've always worked. No. You're just going to have to do it willy-nilly the way you do it. So now, what we do is we say, God chooses by apocalypsing others with His word. So, what I always reflect back to the person that's asking the question, what are you worried about? Are you nervous about somebody? Are you worried about somebody not having that word?
Yes.
Then deliver it. Now you have a calling. Now I am telling you, you can be the preacher. The difficult part is you can't aim it, you can only proclaim it. You can't make it happen either. And so you can say, I forgive you, and it may function as law on them. You can say, Christ forgives you, and they'll be like, I don't need Him. You can't work. So but you have to just plagiarize Jesus and watch Jesus choose whom He will. Yes, sheeps and goats is what you're going to end up being a participant in.
And you may not know. You probably will not know. Because you don't know how this stuff is going to land, where it's landing, when it's landing. We have all sorts of examples of students who have come back years later or sent emails and never would have had any idea they were even paying attention in class. They were on Facebook most of the time. But then we got an email last spring from a student who was in Africa, I think.
He was taking my class on Martin Luther, and he went off to be a Navy SEAL. And now he's in Africa doing those bombs.
Sweeping for bombs.
Sweeping for those, this is his job in the Navy now, is looking out for those bombs on the roadside. And he said, I go out there every day, and what gets me most through this now is what you told me. The caption of the subject line of his email was, sin and sin boldly. And he said, I remember what you told me in that Luther class. And so this is what keeps me going every day. And what I tell my comrades is what keeps us going every day.
But we never would have suspected it at the time. So don't burden yourself with the thought that you need to be able to discern who does and doesn't have faith. Most of the time, I don't have faith. If I did, I'd actually follow the 10 Commandments. So don't think that it's up to you now to go. You have the calling, now we are telling you, to go preach this. As do all of you, by the way, so surprise.
Apocalypse, well, good for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Once you hear this freedom, now you go out and preach it. That's how this works. Now you can all go be preachers and proclaim this freedom to everyone else who's captive to sin.
This is what motivates us to do what we do.
Yep.
We do this because we get to.